to introduce our two guest hosts today. This is Ms. Keely Saye and this is Bett Williams. We will have some information. I'm sure will be very exciting and really information. Thank you.
Thank you.
The sign-in sheet is at the back. If anyone needs it, just let me know, okay?
And I'm gonna introduce Keely here. I am Director of Communications for Children's Trust, and I hope all of you are our friends or our fans or our followers on Twitter and Facebook, and I hope you pin us on Pinterest. And one of these days we'll get on Instagram, but we're not there yet. Professionally, we'd love to see you on LinkedIn. But Keely is our social media consultant, and we have used her before I got here. We've used her for years. And Keely is a professional woman who has been in the right place at the right time, and she has really taken advantage in her professional career of being on the front end of social media and social media in Columbia. One of the great things about having someone like Keely and I consider her a staff person even though she's a consultant, but one of the important things to us about someone like Keely is that this is one of those times when we know we don't know what we need to know. But we know we need to be out in the social sphere. And we know that our social networks are what drive the traffic to our website. And what do we have on our website? Well, that is our virtual front door. And if we're not inviting people in to our virtual front door, then we have a problem because people are looking for that virtual front door. So Keely is the person who's really helped shape our strategy, and a lot of what we're going to learn today is how we've gotten to that strategy. So Keely's going to do a lot of the talking. I'm going to do a lot of the talking about stuff that's very specific to us, but Keely is our resident expert.
Thank you, Bett. And thank you guys for being here. I'm going to try not to walk in front of the light here, but I thought that today we would kind of start at a 50,000 foot level and then work our way not too deep into the weeds, but I do want you guys to take away some tips and ideas that you can actually implement and execute yourself. I do a presentation called, I used to call it New Media for the New Economy. Now we're calling it Cross-Channel Marketing for the New Economy. As you guys know, social media is very vast. There are a lot of social media channels, but there are also other digital marketing channels that we take advantage of to pull traffic into our website and into our online roof and shingles. So I'm going to start off talking very broadly about all of these channels that we're taking advantage of and how we're driving traffic to the website. And in particular, we're going to talk about inbound marketing. For those of you who have been in the marketing world for quite some time, as early as just probably 10 years ago, we marketers were pushing out our messages. In any channel that we could buy media, we were buying the attention of our audience in TV, print, radio. And since not just social media, but since the internet came about, and especially with Google and other search engines, consumers are now becoming more empowered to choose the information that they consume and block out these interruptive messages. So whereas we used to buy the attention of our audience on TV, our audience is fast forwarding through TV commercials with their TiVos and DVRs. They're not even listening to us on the radio because they have thousands of their favorite songs on their iPod. They're going to the internet to get their news instead of the newspaper. And the list goes on and on. We've got, thank goodness for caller ID, because I don't have to pick up the phone and talk to anyone who might be telemarketing me. So as consumers, that's great news. But as marketers, it's very challenging. And as nonprofit organizations that are trying to get donors or trying to get a message out or trying to promote events, it's very challenging. So a few years ago, a gentleman by the name of David Meerman Scott wrote The New Rules of Marketing and PR. And I think it was probably 2007, 2008, when as a marketer, I was unemployed because as most marketers out there was very few jobs in the marketing and advertising industry. And so I read this book and it changed my life. I went from being a traditional outbound marketer and advertising, executive, to really becoming an inbound marketing evangelist. Inbound marketing is the practice of placing content out into the marketplace, whether it's online or offline, but it's content that your audience is attracted to. So instead of screaming from the rooftops, look at me, we're the best, we have, the challenge is to be a little bit more creative. We have to come up with interesting and relevant content and then place it in the channels in which people are searching for it. Because there are people out there searching for what I say we're selling. In this room, we're probably not selling many products, but we are selling organizations that are doing great work for the community. So one of the first things that we do is really just segment that audience, and we call them buyer personas, and we figure out where they're hanging out online, what type of content they're reading, and then we start putting it into blogs, social media news feeds. We optimize it for search engine optimization. That's what SEO stands for. Sometimes we even pay to get found by placing Google ads. It's like $1 a click to place a Google ad. So that's what SEM stands for, is search engine marketing. And if you look at all of these channels combined, it's a lot of channels. I mean, it used to be that we just had advertising and public relations. And within those two programs that I have up here in circle form, with advertising, we had TV, print, outdoor, radio. PR, we had media relations and press releases. Now we have digital advertising opportunities, public relations that is done online and offline. But search engine optimization plays a big role, search engine marketing, even email marketing. Who here wants to get another email? Now. So the challenge for us, that as communications people, is to send people emails that they want to read. And that's very difficult because we want to talk about ourselves. And our audience wants to learn and be educated or be entertained. I always say that in order for us to pull an audience in, we have to educate, inspire, and provoke controversy, which is oftentimes what we don't want to do, but that does get people's attention, or make people laugh. So that is the whole concept of inbound marketing. We want to educate and inspire more so than we are promoting ourselves. I'm going to go back really quickly because whether we are working in our social media channels, there we go. This is a new, oh wait, what I'm seeing on here is not what's up there, so I apologize, I'm going all over the place. We were just talking about inbound marketing. It can be very confusing, it can get very complicated. But the three things that we always try to do with an inbound marketing strategy is get found or drive traffic, convert, might be converting Facebook fans or Twitter followers or getting somebody to fill out a form on your website, and then analyzing the results. And we're going to talk a lot about analyzing the results and specifically about some campaigns that we've worked on with the Children's Trust. So that's the 50,000-foot overview. What I'm going to do now is really just delve really deeply into the social media component. Actually, let me back up. We've talked about getting found. I do want to talk to you a little bit about converting, because driving traffic, whether it's to your website or your social media network, We can pay to drive traffic. We can, sometimes it's pretty easy to get people there. It's not so easy to convert people into a fan, friend, or follower. So one of the things that we're going to talk about towards the end and show you some analytics are our campaigns. At the Children's Trust, we're going to show you 3 campaigns that we've done over the past year and a half. And they were primarily driven by Facebook. Facebook is the largest social media network that's out there. But what we typically look at in terms of conversion campaigns is, first of all, are we trying to convert social media followers, or are we trying to convert actual leads on our website? And what we found is if we're trying to convert social media followers, contests and sweepstakes, coupons, petitions, quizzes, these are the types of campaigns that seem to engage our audience. Now, depending on whether you're trying to increase your social media reach, growing followers, or let's say you already have a good many followers and you just want to engage them, depending on what your goal, your primary goal is, will dictate what type of social media campaign we're going to launch. So for instance, if you have 10 Facebook followers and 2 Twitter followers, and you launch a sweepstakes to give away an iPad, then those less than 20 followers are going to try to win that iPad, but they're not going to tell anybody about it because that's going to decrease their chances for winning. So sweepstakes are a great engagement tool. If you have 10,000 fans and followers, then by all means, run a sweepstakes, because those 10,000 people, you want to continue to engage with them. You've already captured them, you've already converted them, then now you want to engage with them. So sweepstakes is a great way to do that. We're going to show you a couple of examples of contests that we've run that has helped build the Children's Trust social media reach substantially over the last 2 years. And contests are different than sweepstakes because typically they have a submission period and a voting period. And the submission period kind of is slow moving. We have to, typically if we're offering something, we have to let that audience know that we're offering it. And when the voting period hits, that's when we see the activity, because friends, family members, coworkers are all telling their friends, go to this page and vote for me. So we're going to show you an example of a couple of contests that we run and show you the analytics behind it. As far as website conversion campaigns go, we typically find that white papers or webinars or webcasts, the content, it's free content, but it's not completely free, because when we offer content, we're asking for contact information. So you're going to have to fill out a form to get my ebook, or you're going to have to fill a form out to get my white paper. Those conversion campaigns can get very complicated, and we're going to stick with social media today. So if you have any questions about the conversion campaigns, I'm happy to stick around afterwards. But the analytics that we're about to look at in terms of how these campaigns worked and how they drove traffic, we're looking at traffic growth, and we're looking at not only the channel optimization, whether it's Facebook optimization or Twitter optimization, but we're looking at analytics to show us whether or not the campaign is working. With Facebook, is everybody familiar with Facebook Insights? You can go in and day out, and you can see if there's a positive spike or a negative spike. You can see if people are unliking your page, or there's just all kinds of analytics that we can review so that we know what's working, so that we can continue to do more of that and then discontinue what's not working. So we use Facebook Insights, Twitter Insights, Google Analytics, because we want to make sure that all of the social media networking that we're doing is actually driving traffic back to the website. So we will look at some graphics that demonstrate that. And again, the campaigns that you're about to hear about, we have 3 objectives: get found, convert, and then analyze. So our objective in getting found with these particular campaigns was to drive traffic to Facebook while integrating our other social media networks and also integrating traditional advertising and PR where we could, converting that traffic into Facebook fans and followers, and then analyzing the results. So I am going to have Bett talk a little bit more about each one of the campaigns, and then we'll look at the analytics.
Okay, so one of the things that, I'm going to back up a second. One of the things that we have sort of decided that we wanted to do is we took a look at the different platforms. And we said, you know, we have a lot of different audiences. And there are a lot of different places that you can talk and you can speak. For us, with Children's Trust, we said, who are our audiences? And we have families that is an audience. We have people like you who are professionals that are an audience. We have folks that want to advocate on behalf of children. That's another audience, very different, very distinct. And then we have people who just like us. They've always given to us. They've been a supporter of us. They believe in what we're doing. So those are 4 very different audiences. And so we also then take a look at what are opportunities with the different platforms to get out to those audiences. So for us, with Facebook, we really do use Facebook for a lot of our parent messaging. It's the fun stuff. It is one of those ways that we can really cast a wide net, because there are a lot of people out there that understand Facebook, but they understand families, and they understand families, and so they really do engage well with Facebook, especially at a very simple level of what we do, which is about keeping kids safe and wanting to prevent child abuse. So for the Children's Trust, our mission is to strengthen and support public and private prevention efforts. So one of the things that we came up with 2 years ago for Child Abuse Prevention Month was, how do we really help those folks that are out there, and how do we have a Prevent Child Abuse Month program? And so what we came up with was, you know, a lot of the people that are out in the state doing great work, they're the superheroes. We're the people in Columbia, doing trainings, doing programs, doing things that strengthen the system. But you all are the superheroes. And we said, well, why don't we have a superheroes campaign? And why don't we have a Facebook contest? And let's give away some money. And let's you all help us build our network. It helps you all build your networks. And it also allows those individual organizations to have an imprint, have something going on Facebook without having to run their own Facebook contest. And it also gives us the opportunity, because if people believe in what you're doing, they're going to believe in what we're doing. Because we're doing a lot of the same thing. We're just sort of flying at different levels in different silos. So we came up with the Superheroes for Prevention. We will probably do it again this year. Who knows? We'll call it that, but it'll be the same premise. I've got it budgeted. Looking forward to doing it. Encourage everyone to participate. And we did that submission period that Keely talked about, where it was, we asked nonprofits across the state to raise your hand and be a superhero. Divided them up to the 4 areas of the state: upstate, Midlands, PD, and the low country. So we gave away 4 prizes. People voted. We gained friends of like mind with your friends, and then it allowed us to also lift these folks up. So, and that was something that we did. It really kicked it off around Cat Month. So, and one of our opportunities, we got to work out all that messaging, is the difference between a pinwheel and a superhero and preventing child abuse. But right now, we have the superheroes. So. Another one that we did was this past Halloween. And we said, again, families is that good family audience. How do we reach families? Again, it was a little bit different. And so we said, well, Keely said, it's an absolute tragedy if your organization does not have a baby contest. I mean, you're about kids, and it's about children. So why don't you do a beautiful children contest, a beautiful baby contest? And we said, okay, it's around Halloween, and so we did this last Halloween. We encouraged people to send in their photos. Again, we leveraged the friends of the folks that submitted the contest. They had to like us in order to vote. And this was very, very successful. One of the really neat things about this contest is the girl that won, or one of the families that won, has a child who's severely disabled. She's got some rare genetic condition that is incredibly tragic. But this mother has a wonderful story to tell, and we're going to help tell her story about how does she get relief from being a mom and dealing with a child who has very severe special needs. And what's that story? So again, from a storyteller's point of view, this is not just creating those stories on social media, but it's also helping us tell the story of everybody else. But this was very, very successful. One of the things with both of, is that the only one we got? Yeah. But one of the things I want to say with these contests is I believe we started out at around 900 Facebook friends. We are really close to 3,000 now. So whereas, I'm not Coca-Cola, I don't have however many Facebook friends, but for a nonprofit in South Carolina, I'm kind of tickled. And when I went to the Prevent Child Abuse conference a few weeks, I guess about this time last year, the Prevent Child Abuse West Virginia group and the Prevent Child Abuse something other group were talking about, hey, we want to get to 2,000. There's no other PCA chapter at 2,000. I'm like, yes, we are. We're at 2,000 and beyond because this is really important. This is great ways for us to help tell that message and us to help have people with us and drive traffic to that website. And so one of the things that we've done a lot of with Facebook and our messaging is that we recently relaunched our website in January. And before that, we were linking a lot of people outside of our network. One of the things that you'll see us doing now is really then trying to use that Facebook to drive traffic into our website. Because every month, if not more than that, I am looking at that traffic. And I have goals that I will increase my web traffic by a certain amount. I know what my peers in other states have for their web traffic. And so for us, Facebook is really driving that traffic to our website. Because I want people to know about the messaging we do. I want people going out there and looking at the tools that we have to help kids make sure that they're fitted into the proper car seat. Make sure that kids know how to wear a car seat helmet. Or helping parents learn how to have a life jacket that fits. We've got all that stuff out there. We've added 100 pages to our website recently. It does me no good if no one's going to it. So Facebook especially has been really, really important to us. Again, like Keely said, it's the largest social media outlet out there, and so we want to make sure that we are using it.
Just real quick to jump in there, when we started dripping original content into the news feeds, in other words, as Bett was talking about developing.
Did you use Facebook advertisement to do that?
Yes, we did use, the question was, did we use Facebook advertisement? And we did.
And the great thing about placing those Facebook ads, there are 2 million people on Facebook in South Carolina, but we drilled down to probably 10,000 people who were predisposed to this message. So in other words, we looked at their interests, their different keywords, and so we only targeted people that we thought would be interested in the content that we were promoting. So we, instead of throwing a billboard on the interstate and having 500,000 people drive by it every day, knowing that only 1% of them is probably going to care, we actually only targeted those 1%, and only those 1% saw the sponsored stories that we were trying to promote.
So, but no, go ahead.
Okay, when you did the Facebook ad, click on the ad, they ask you the keywords. You have to know your keywords.
Well, when you place an ad, you go through the process and it asks you, okay, where do you want to target these ads? Do you want to go South Carolina, or do you just want to target 10 miles within Columbia, 25 miles within Columbia. You can even target by zip code. And then as you go on down, it's going to ask you, all right, what types of precise interests do you want to target? And then they have a general interest category. And so you can go through all of those general interests. And oftentimes we'll click on the general interest of people who are interested in charity and causes, or mothers or parents. There was one campaign that we worked on with a school foundation, I think last year. And the school foundation is a statewide foundation. And this is right around the time that the Waiting for Superman documentary came out. And so we knew that if someone on Facebook said that they liked that movie, they were going to like supporting public education. And believe it or not, out of 2 million people in South Carolina, there were 2,000 that liked Waiting for Superman. That was a precise interest that we put in there. And so I encourage you to think about what types of movies your audience is watching, what types of books they're reading, because oftentimes you can see a very strong correlation in your calls with interests like that.
That's one of the really fascinating and challenging things for marketers these days, is we've gone from shooting those messages out in mass media to really being able to so finely target that you can almost track the use of every ad dollar. And it doesn't have to be a whole lot of ad dollars. And the analytics can become overwhelming. But if you start to think really smart, and you start to think very strategically about what you're doing, it can have a big impact with very low budget. So.
With this particular campaign, with the Beautiful Children contest, we targeted those Facebook ads to women who were parents of children ages, I think, 0 to 7, something like that. Because first of all, we no offense to any of you guys in here, but we knew that the majority of our submissions, the vast majority of our submissions, were going to be from women who have pictures of their kids on their phones. So we went ahead and said, okay, we're just going to target women. And then there's a broad interest category for parents, and then there's another broad interest category for parents of children in different age groups. And so we targeted them, and obviously we set the geographic range to South Carolina.
Any other questions about anything so far?
We do have another graph that demonstrates how these particular campaigns increased reach. The social reach by channel is a measure of how many followers you have. And you can see when we launched the first Superheroes campaign, went up substantially. We're actually almost up to 5,000 fans now.
All right.
So first Superheroes, we went from less than 1,000 to about over 2,000, and then of course you level off. The next one, we jumped up to over 3,000 or 3,500. And then in the most recent Superheroes, we've jumped to about 5,000 followers. And I'm going to go back to the previous slide really quickly. Out of those 3,000 to 5,000 followers, this is what you get. And if you look at these numbers, that up there, that green line, is total impressions. And the total impressions at the peak of Superheroes in 2012 was 1.8 million impressions. And that stabilized during the campaign. Now those impressions are friends of friends and just people seeing it in the news feed. It's kind of like an impression on a billboard, except social impressions are a good bit more valuable because people are already opting in to see those impressions. During the Beautiful Photo Contest, we got up to 1.4 million impressions. People talking about this, total reach, there's all kinds of data that you can dig into with Facebook. And if you're wondering why in 2012 we had so many more impressions than we did in 2013, even using ad dollars, there's a little thing called Facebook EdgeRank algorithm. And let me tell you, once the Ed Drake algorithm came out, I was one angry marketer because we had spent all of this time and all of this energy trying to get these followers. And then Facebook said, well, if you put something into the news feed, we're not necessarily going to show it to your followers because we want you to pay for it to get seen. So anyway, I have a love-hate relationship with Facebook. My protege and right hand is about to go work for Facebook in Austin, so I'm proud of her, but I'm like, ugh.
Yeah. But, but that being said, when you do show up, the Facebook algorithm or Ed Drake or whatever they want to call it, when it does show up somewhere, it's still a very valuable impression. It's still a very valuable person because somewhere along the way, that person has said, their content's incredibly valuable to me because if you've said to Facebook you're interested in that, it'll show up. So somewhere along with your actions and your actions, your clicks, your reads, what you've liked, it's a big, fancy, long vegetable alphabet soup. So.
Well, and Twitter is not necessarily the red-headed stepchild here. We've done more in Facebook than we have in Twitter because, well, first of all, Facebook is the largest social media network with over 2 million users in South Carolina. There's only about 50 or 60,000 users on Twitter in South Carolina. However, the conversation in Twitter goes on all day long. And just only a couple of months ago, Twitter came out with Twitter ads. And so we're now able to micro-target our audience like we are in Facebook. And one of the things that we've even done with Twitter, Twitter ads is you can do there's really two types of ads in social media: promoted posts or sponsored stories, or promoted account. And that's when you're just trying to get people to like your page or follow your page. We've actually run a page like or a sponsored page story in Twitter targeting, I wouldn't call them competitors, but targeting followers of other organizations like the Children's Trust. So it is really an interesting consumer behavior research study when you start to place these ads, and it gets to be really, I find it very intriguing, but it can get very complicated. But that being said, Twitter, I think, is about to emerge as a strong social media network and give us the ability to micro-target even more.
One of the things that we do with Twitter, and we hopefully will do a better job of it and do more of it in the future, is that conversation. And so you can't have a conversation unless somebody's in the room. So who in your communities, be thinking about who in your communities are on Twitter, who's having that conversation. How many of you all live in Columbia? Okay, well, the mayor is always on Twitter. If you want to talk to Steve Benjamin or you want to get his attention, that's one of those ways you can do that. As are other people like that. And so for us, it is who's out there and who's having that conversation. So during Prevent Child Abuse Month, we have a little pinwheel garden at the corner of Main and I guess it was Lady Street. And the mayor's out there talking about it. The mayor is talking about us on Twitter. That's fantastic. That is wonderful PR that none of us had a few years ago. But it was part of the conversation. We were talking to him and he was talking to us, and we all already knew everybody's Twitter handles. And so that's really one of those things that you've got that opportunity to think about who's in your community. I don't just mean your geographic community, but who's in your community of influence that's on Twitter? What are they saying? Are they talking? And how many of you all know what a hashtag is? Hashtag is a wonderful way to create a conversation and follow it. But you got to be out there. So for the prevention conference, we had a hashtag, and we've been posting stuff. It's a wonderful way that, especially if you're having an event or if you are having some sort of particular initiative, get your board members talking, get your supporters talking, get other people talking and following that hashtag.
It's Prevention 2013 for those of you who are on Twitter.
Yes.
I actually, I think maybe a year or two ago, There was a gentleman who had just moved to Columbia, and he was trying to find a job. And he called me and left me a message on my voicemail, and he emailed me, and I didn't know him from Adam's House Cat, and so, I wasn't being ugly, I just didn't have time to respond. And the next thing I know, this guy is retweeting my tweets, he's liking my stuff on Facebook, and what do you know? I responded to that email, and I got together with him and helped him find a job, because it was a compliment to me that he actually took the time and he was liking and commenting and sharing the information that I was posting. And when we launch campaigns, we target media outlets. WIS has over 60,000 Twitter followers. If they put one thing into their news feed, that increases our impressions tremendously with regards to the amount of people who are exposed to that content.
So you've got that opportunity with Twitter or another one of these to really amplify what you're saying. So it's not just you. Yes?
How much time would you say you spend a day working on Facebook and Twitter?
I'm going to let Keely answer that question about how much time a day you spend on.
That's a great question, and as a matter of fact, what we consider work on social media is earning the attention of our audience, and that's an inbound marketing approach. So whereas we used to pay for the attention of our audience with TV and advertisements, we're now earning the attention of our audience, and so we have to engage with them. We have to have a conversation. So we spend between 3 to 5 hours per week monitoring and engaging and posting in all of the news feeds. So it might be 30 minutes one day, it might be an hour the next. We're also, monitoring ads and analytics, and so it's a good 5 hours a week to 20 hours a month, and that varies depending on what's going on with campaigns and things.
And there are a lot of tools that you can use with we use Hootsuite. Keely, I think we're the only client left of Keely's on Hootsuite, maybe, but we use Hootsuite, which is another way for you to deck out that. That is another one of those places, and I will tell you, I wish we did this best practice, but we don't. We will get there because it's a lot. That's where that content calendar really comes into play, where you're out there talking to your program folks about what is it that you're doing, what is it that you're saying, what have you got going on, so that you can really make sure your messages are not only on target with your organization's stuff, but what you're out there doing. Who's speaking where and who's doing what. And that coordination is tough, because you're a nonprofit, so you're flying 100 miles an hour, and you want to, you've got things to do. You've got a mailing to get out, you've got a development piece to create. But that content work is really, really important, because it really makes sure that you're driving home that strategic messaging.
And backing up a little bit even further than that, remember when I said that we can't talk about ourselves all the time, because we have to engage in a conversation that is not all about us? One of the first things that we did, because we don't have a blog post every day, and we can't recycle every single page of the website every day and send people back to our website, we have to talk about things that are relevant to our audience and relevant to our cause, but we have to do it in such a way that we're promoting other people. I call it being down with OPC, other people's content. I swear I'm gonna do one of those YouTube video spoofs off of that song one day. But no, once we segmented the audience, delved into the buyer persona research, understood each one of our personas, we then went into all 6 of these networks and stalked content resources and online influencers. And so now when we go into the news feed, there's relevant conversations already going on, and we can like, comment, or share other people's content, and then thereby complimenting other people so that they're more likely to share our content and follow us. And then when we post original content that pulls people back into our website, it doesn't seem as icky or self-proclamatory or outbound.
So really overwhelming. I mean, that's a lot out there. And so one of the things that people have always said, that I've always heard, I have help. You may not have help, so just pick one channel. Pick one that you're going to do really well, and do it well. And then as you build your proficiency, you'll see that there's other ways to kind of use what you're doing in other channels. So you got to start somewhere. You have to start, take one bite at a time. Don't try to do all that, or you'll just really go crazy.
And we didn't bite off all of this all at once either. You know, Pinterest didn't even come onto the scene until this past year. We started with Facebook and of course with Twitter. And you know, again, we post a lot more on Twitter than we do on Facebook. We try to make sure that our most popular or most important information goes on Facebook, but we put everything on Twitter. Google Plus, as of right now, I can honestly say I don't care how many people are following us on Google Plus, because nobody's really on Google Plus. But Google is on Google Plus. And so whatever goes out into any of these networks automatically goes on Google Plus because of the search engine optimization value. If you're not on Google Plus, the Google bots are. And so just by virtue of putting that information out there, and using Hootsuite, excuse me for my voice today. Hootsuite allows us to say, okay, we're going to put this post out there, and I'm going to click Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Google+, so it goes out to all networks. So you're not having to go to each individual one. And better yet, let's say, all right, I don't want this to go out today. I want it to go out Wednesday, next week. We can schedule that to go out in all 4 networks, however often or what times we want. And then YouTube, of course, is the largest, second to largest search engine next to Google, believe it or not. There are more searches on YouTube every day than there are Bing or Yahoo. And YouTube is where videos and multimedia content are on the internet. And so we know that our followers on Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn like videos. So if we're following you on Facebook and Twitter and you happen to have a YouTube channel, then we're going to follow and subscribe to your YouTube channel too, because you might post a video that our followers are going to like. Yes?
One question that I know, we kind of, because we're kind of at the, where you're wanting to do some work with social media, but it's the whole question about confidentiality.
So that,
Safety, because we're dealing with clients.
right. So we are, so the question is, I'm repeating the question because we're taping.
Right.
So the question is, how do you deal with client confidentiality in a very social place? I think that comes back, I'm going to answer this one. I think some of that comes back to what do you want to be saying? And is it that you, and from a messaging point of view, do you really, what kind of work do y'all do?
We work with children who are in therapeutic foster care.
So you're working with children in therapeutic foster care. Not a particularly happy, not always happy content. But the results of what you do are very happy. The importance of what you do is very happy. So I would suggest you spend some time with some of the resources that are on Prevent Child Abuse America's website. We heard from were you in the session earlier? Ben Tanzer was just here. He's with Prevent Child Abuse America. He really talked about how do we use that forward exchange. How do we talk about where we want to be, maybe not where we are, or where that child is. You can't say, you don't want to say, oh my gosh, we just had the most horrific case come in the door, because if it's one case and somebody knows it, they're going to know what it is. You can't. But you can talk about what's important. You can talk about family strengthening. And you can come back to your values. And if you start talking about your values and what are you important to you, that's what people are going to care about. And that's what people are going to start to follow you on. Because if they feel like you're doing that important work and making kids and families better, then that's going to resonate with them. Because the reality is, if you're not talking about that and you talk about hard stuff, people are just going to turn away because it's so painful.
Right.
That it's just not what, we've all been at the news where it's like, I can't watch it, I got to turn it off. And you don't want people to turn you off.
Right. Now, the other question I have too is that, and this might be something that everybody face, how do you control things that might be coming in from somebody who's maybe not, it could be a violent
how do you control the conversation to keep it on message with you?
Right.
Either one of us can talk about that.
Well, sure, I think that we can tag team
Yeah.
that. As a rule of thumb, we do not delete posts unless they are offensive and have curse words in them, or offensive to someone, or breaches any kind of confidentiality. We have 5,000 fans on Facebook, and if someone were to go on our Facebook page and say something negative, I guarantee you 5, 10, 15, 20, 30, 100 of those fans are going to pounce on that person and handle the situation for us. However, if it is a situation where the confidentiality lines are being crossed, we delete it immediately.
I think that, in the social world, conversations have to be very transparent, because if they're not, there's no faster way to turn off your social media audience than to not be part of the conversation. You have to, then I think that comes back to what do you do when you're at the cash register at McDonald's and you have an angry customer? What's that best practice? You deal with it, you're up front, you pull it offline. You take it around the corner where you're not in the middle of the restaurant and you're having a conversation. So a lot of times you can say, I would love to speak with you. Can you call me? Here's my number. Or I send you a private message. I would love to speak with you. We have a hard time sometimes, and this is where we get into trouble, and this will send several of us into a total with it, is when we post something about safe sleep. And then women and families who believe in bed sharing, or the family bed, start posting about safe sleep, and they've got all this stuff out there. It's an opportunity for us, though, to then put our content back out there and say, yes, but we know that the AAP guidelines for safe sleep, which are that this is really important. And so you just get that content back out there, which is that best practice. You acknowledge people, you're polite. It's the same thing as if, we've all seen those customer service nightmares unfold before our eyes and think, I'm so glad that's not me. But what is that customer service? What are those good customer service skills in pulling those out? But if it's private, it's confidential, it's, oh my gosh, I need, if it's something that's horrific, take it down. So.
We have a local client that it's a different client, and they're in a completely different space, but there was a really negative experience at a restaurant. And this person didn't post on the client's page, but they posted on their own page, but it got back around to the client because this person was very well-known in social media. The owner of the restaurant ended up contacting this gentleman personally and wasn't just offering him free food or anything like that, but he legitimately wanted to get to the bottom of the situation because apparently the wait staff in the kitchen had an issue, and he legitimately wanted to fix it. And the gentleman who posted the negative comment, then on his own, he posted a very positive comment about how he was very proud of the owners and how he was going to give them a second chance. But it was because that owner took it offline and helped fix it.
Yeah.
Is that Tulsa?
No.
Oh, well, the same thing happened in Tulsa with a restaurant.
Right.
And a group of young African-Americans went to the restaurant, and the assistant told them that there was a white customer that was afraid of all
Oh, yeah.
they can't come. Well, that was not cool, because it's a very popular restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
And he posted on Facebook that night, and they videotaped the conversation that night. It was all on Facebook. This is a very popular restaurant.
Yes.
And, the news media, Channel 5, is also very heavy on Facebook. I mean,
Right.
He saw the stories on it. Everybody went to his page and posted it on his page.
That's right.
Of course, they had to act to this and that, and then it went on CNN.
That's right.
Oh, yeah.
And it's
So-
all the way.
I'm telling you, that one little thing called controversy, you don't want to be at the bad end of controversy, but if you can newsjack some controversy, you can find yourself on CNN or a local TV station.
And like you said, to respond, because they would not respond
That's right.
in the beginning, when it was first on Facebook. But when it did, that's what Yahoo, CNN, Black News, all these national channels, then they called it, but if they hadn't acted in the first beginning,
Yeah.
it probably wouldn't have went that far.
So I think coming back to your question then is if you can come back to who you are as an organization and what you want to be seen as, there's your content. There's what you talk about, and there's the image that you want to reflect. It's just as if you are doing a brochure. It's just this brochure has lots of words and moving parts.
And the message is interesting and relevant content that isn't always necessarily about the brand.
Right.
Um,
Right.
do we have any more questions?
Any more questions? Any more comments?
One of the things that I did want, if we had time, because I want you guys to be able to really take away some information that will empower you to actually do some of this stuff. As far as launching a campaign, excuse me, on Facebook in particular, Facebook has these rules and regulations that say you can't do a promotion or a contest or a sweepstakes directly on Facebook. So they make you go through a third-party application software, which is very cumbersome to learn. However, what we use to launch these campaigns is something called ShortStack. And that's shortstack.com. It's very user-friendly. And this all actually goes back to apparently every single state in the United States has different laws governing gambling. And Facebook doesn't want to be to get in trouble or be liable for any contest or sweepstakes. So it's actually against Facebook's rules or guidelines to say, okay, if we get 5,000 fans, we're gonna give you a free burrito day. We actually did that with Moe's Burritos before it was illegal. So you have to go through this third-party application software to put up the tabs and everything. And if you go to shortstack.com, they have a lot of little videos that can teach you how to do that. And all you have to do is create the graphics and then upload them to Facebook. You've got to have contest rules, and they help you with that. But the third-party app is that I found is the most user-friendly is ShortStack.
Any other questions? Any other questions about this? Oh, yes, Karen?
Do you have to pay for such a third party?
Do you pay for that third-party app?
You do if you have a certain amount of friends. And I think we pay, maybe
Not very
$50 or
expensive.
$75 a month. But we manage more than just the Children's Trust. It's a freemium. So if you start off small, it'll be free, and then I think that you go to like $15 a month, and you can cancel at any time.
All right, what else? Any other questions? Go ahead.
I actually do some work with a very small nonprofit. We have one paid employee.
Uh-huh.
And the board has been really interested recently in getting involved with social media.
Yes.
But my concern is that we don't actually have the manpower that we need to gain in.
Right.
What are your thoughts about that?
Okay, so your board wants to be involved in social media, and here is what I think. This is my opinion, not one person. I think that the board needs to be the ones that are doing their board, and I will tell you, I've got a lot of experience with nonprofit boards. Your board members need to be their voice for your organization. They need to be sharing your message under their name, because that's what's going to have the most power. Now, you might have one or two board members that don't mind talking as the organization, as a volunteer. You control that message, but they are out there sharing, liking, tweeting, and talking about you as themselves. Because if they're out there talking about, if we're just out there talking about ourselves, then we're only reaching our networks. But if your board members are out there talking about you to their networks, that's what you want. You want this sphere of influence growing, this sphere of influence growing. You want to reach their spheres. It doesn't do you any good if they just want to talk on behalf of us to our small network, or to their small network.
Do you already have social media networks established, branded social media networks like business pages? And
That's where
things?
you can take a couple volunteers to really help you come up with that strategy and what your voice is going to be and what kind of stuff you want to do. And you come back to those values because your board members really can help you to decide what it is you want to be in that public image. And then that's when you can get your post scheduled, you can get the stuff out there. That's when your board members can help you share it. Because the minute you try to have multiple, Keely and I bump up into each other all the time because I'll start posting something and she's already got something scheduled. That's when you really kind of have to, you just cannot have too many people messing with what's going on.
Well, and the one key thing that I think Bett just mentioned is strategy. You have to have a social media strategy. And really what a social media strategy translates into is a content strategy. What are you going to be talking about every single day that people are going to care about and not get turned off? Because you can't just keep putting your brochure out there. You've got to follow industry publications. You've got to follow content resources and those online influencers, media outlets. When we first start off with the content or the social media strategy, that is the most time-consuming part of developing a social media plan, because first of all, we have to figure out who our target audience is, and then we delve deep into the mindset of that audience to figure out what can we talk about that these people would be interested in, and then we go and find those Facebook pages and Twitter accounts, and on behalf of the organization, we follow them so that we'll have stuff that's interesting and relevant in the news feed to share.
Right. And the other thing that's really important as you start to build that up is that you really have something that's sustainable. We all know volunteers come and go. And if your volunteer goes, and there goes your social media capacity, you're then, not only are you rebuilding an audience, but you're really then, it's like you didn't call your friend back. You're back. You're not only not where you were, you got to go backwards again. It's like, well, I said I was going to be their friend on Facebook, but they didn't say anything. They didn't respond to my, I commented and they didn't like it. So you've got to make sure you're out there and it's sustainable. And so, what is realistic and that's what it's just got to be. Volunteers are great. They're wonderful strategy and a wonderful voice, but you've really got to figure out how you're going to manage that.
Well, and whether you're budgeting time or whether you're budgeting money, it is a marketing expense for any organization, any person. Like I said, we spend 20 hours a month just monitoring and engaging and posting things into all of these news feeds because we're earning the attention of that audience. So, if it's, you've got to invest in hiring an intern to manage it, then so be it. Time is money, and that's why I have a job.
Right. How many of you all have ever heard one of your volunteers, your board members, your directors say, "Oh, but Facebook is free"? Why don't we just do that? Because Facebook is free. Facebook is not free. Facebook is a lot of thought, a lot of energy, and it's incredibly valuable. It needs to be treated as such.
And it can be a double-edged sword. If you approach social media without a strategy, it could actually harm your brand more than help it.
Any other questions? Anybody have any? We're done with the slides, right?
Yeah.
Does anybody have any other things that they're kind of working through? Go ahead. Yes.
One last question for me.
Sure.
How do you know? Where do you go? Who do you consult with to know that your strategy is sound?
How do you know? The question is, how do you know if your strategy is sound? I think a lot of that comes back to just the strategy that the overall goals of the organization. So, your communications, it has got to be part. I'm sure, with any organization, you've got things that you want to accomplish. And so your communication goals have got to fit up with that. And social media is just one of those tools that go within a larger communications plan. And so I think you've got to, and that also requires buy-in from the top. It requires buy-in from your board of directors. It requires buy-in from your management staff. And so you've got to have that, does it fit? And is this going to help us get us where we need to be? But the other question about how do you know if it's working or if your strategy is sound, a lot of times that is determined by your analytics. You know, do you have, are more people following you? Are you driving traffic to your website? You can look at you can look in your Google Analytics and know where your traffic is coming from. My web traffic, or our web traffic on Children's Trust, would be much lower if I didn't have Facebook and Pinterest. Because I know that other than Google, that's where I'm getting my traffic. So I think that's where you come back to, is it working? Yes?
One of the things, we have our agency is part of actually a national organization.
Mm-hmm.
And the national organization that we do from our website.
Yes.
And they actually have a Facebook page for our agency, but they encouraged us to do something specific to our state.
Right. So
That's what I like as a challenge too.
Okay.
How do you do that?
So you have, I'm going to repeat it so we make sure we get it. So you have a website that you've got some co-branded pages for your local chapter. You have a local Facebook presence, and that's really pretty much your primary web presence, and it's Facebook. This is your bailiwick. You're good at this.
Let me make sure that I understand the question. You've got a national organization Facebook page,
Right.
and they want you to create a local one, or you already have a local one?
No, we have a national Facebook
Okay.
page, right.
We have a couple of clients that are franchised. Moe's Burritos is one of them. Moe's Southwest Grill has national social media networks, but somebody in Columbia wants to know what are the specials at the Moe's on Main Street, or what are the specials in Moe's in Lexington, or Moe's in Aiken. We have a contract with two of the owners that own Moe's in Columbia, Aiken, Augusta, and Statesboro. So we've created localized pages for each one of those, and sometimes we'll share the national branded messages, but typically we're talking about what's going on locally. Here in Columbia, we talk about Gamecock football all of the time. In Statesboro, we talk about Georgia Southern, and in Aiken and Augusta, we talk about the Masters. So there is a way to localize your pages and capitalize on the content that the national organization is putting out there. Use those branding elements to put a face on your local organization, but then still take a look at how you can localize that message.
Now, do you have to localize it if you have different divisions or offices within the state, or can it be a state?
Well, I think that comes back to, what do you want to do? Do you want to be driving traffic to that local audience? I mean, do you want that local audience to know who to call in their community? Or is it that the messaging for South Carolina is pretty consistent across the state? I think that comes back to really what are you trying to do?
Well, and also the resources that you have. I mean, do you have the resources to manage only one statewide social media network, or do you have the resources to handle 10? Because, if you open one Facebook page, then, you could, in theory, have a Twitter page and a Pinterest page, and all of those social media networks driving traffic to that one hub, that one online roof and shingles. And so there again, I would maybe base my decision on where's the website traffic going to be driven. Do all of the local chapters have their own website? If so, maybe they should have their own social media networks. But if they all are part of one statewide website, then maybe start with that. So you might not be biting off more than you could chew. I've done that before, thinking, oh, well, we'll just create a separate social media network for one campaign or one event, and then we end up competing. The event pages or the campaign pages are competing with the actual branded page that we're trying to pull people into.
Anything else? Anybody have another question? All right. Well, thank y'all very much.
Yes, thank you.